Supply chain shortages have led to fears that there will be price rises and empty shelves in the run-up to Christmas, with retail and food companies warning that the worst is yet to come.
So, in an effort to combat the problem, the government is relaxing rules to allow foreign HGV drivers to make unlimited journeys in Britain for 2 weeks. So, within 2 weeks, they can make as many trips as they like. Well, Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, joins us now. That sounded, when I first heard it, that decision, as a good short-term solution to the problem. But then we hear that actually this is only being considered. It is unlikely to even come in until the end of the year. And so it feels like it's neither a long-term solution nor a short-term solution for the problems we're facing right now.
Yeah, it will take a few weeks to come in. It will be in before Christmas, but we do need to go through a legal process, of course, before changing rules like this, and it requires Parliament to make the change. So it will take a little bit of time. It's only one of the many steps we've taken. In fact, we've taken 24 other steps to help relieve the crush on, or the pressure on the lorry industry, where the problem is, frankly, we've just had a shortage for many decades, and that's been exacerbated by coming out of coronavirus, not being able to test enough people to become HGV drivers during the coronavirus, of course, where we had to stop it. So it's just one extra measure. It will help during a period between, say, December and the spring, as we see more lorry drivers come through, getting tested and getting on the roads domestically.
It's not been welcomed. I know it's only one of measures, but that one measure has not been welcomed by everyone, has it? For instance, we've spoken to PML, one of the leaders from them. Michael Parr is his name. He's a logistics firm based near Heathrow. He actually is very strong and says it's very dangerous. The idea that to solve this even partly, you have drivers coming in just for 2 weeks, doing as many trips as they like. They will be working round the clock. They will be working round the clock, potentially putting the public at risk, putting themselves at risk. He goes so far as to say it is modern slavery, and somebody needs to be accountable for what will inevitably happen.
I'm sorry, I've got to completely and utterly reject that. Cabotage is something which actually already happens throughout Europe with exactly the same drivers. It used to happen here. The difference is that when we left the EU, we took control over how and when people could come and work here. These are drivers, to be clear, who are already here.
It was about the number, but it was about the number of trips, wasn't it? The cabotage rules they could do 2 trips when they came over. What we're saying now is, with the introduction of this new plan, that within 2 weeks they can do as many trips as they possibly can, so they could keep driving all through the night, sleeping in the back of their cabs, which we know isn't ideal for them, and they will be driven, literally and figuratively, to try and make as much money as they possibly can to clear the backlog.
So to be clear, it's only in recent times they've only been able to do those 2 trips. So it's actually a rule which already exists elsewhere.
So what's been put in place to prevent that happening, I think, is what we're asking. Because if your intention is to attract people in, they're going to want to make as much money as possible. And the reason for attracting them is want to clear the backlog as quickly as possible. So there's going to be a lot of motivation to do what we're saying and what this haulier company is worried about. So what are you putting in place to prevent that?
So to be clear, and the reason why this is so untrue, is that working time directives are still in place. It still means that you can't do exactly what your haulier commented on there. That's impossible to do. You can't just go and work around the clock. Exactly the same rules apply to them that would apply to anybody else driving domestically as an HGV driver. They're already coming here. This is simply about what happens when they're here. And it means that we get effectively the benefits that we want to get a bit more resilience for a short period of time whilst people are training and coming through the system. So this idea that somehow we're doing something which is different or unusual, we were doing it for years and years. It's already done throughout Europe. It's simply something that we choose to do now because we have control over this. It's the 25th measure that we're taking. There are 24 other things that we're doing to make it easier, more streamlined for people to become HGV drivers. And we're really pleased that there are bigger salaries. People get paid properly for a decent day's work. We think that's how it should be. We should skill up British drivers, and that's the long-term solution. This is a short-term thing that we can put in place. But there's no chance of people being able to drive longer hours than anyone domestically.
Well, hopefully that will put Mike Parr's mind at rest with regards to that, because he is certainly sure that there will be fatalities from overtried HGV drivers.
It will be illegal for people to drive long.
But as Kate's point still stands, doesn't it? This won't happen. They won't, even if you decide, and it's going to be considered, even if you decide to implement this, they won't be arriving till the end of the year and into the spring next year. And we have this issue at the moment. People are concerned. People are concerned with what they are seeing in their shops. People are concerned with what we are hearing about retail and the problem with the supply chain. We still need to get people and our HGV drivers working now. You introduced a plan to have 5,000 workers come from Europe to be able to come over on visas to try and help with the backlog. Last time we asked, I think it was 27 had actually been granted. Has there been more since then, Grant Shapps?
Yeah. Yes, I think last time we were talking about the tanker drivers specifically, and as you will have seen, the queues, have stopped at the petrol stations, and we've got the fuel is flowing. And you're right to say that hasn't largely been solved through visas being issued. It's been solved by more British drivers getting onto the road. We've had some assistance with the army to clear that up.
Has there been more than 27 taken?
I haven't got the latest exact number, but it's still low numbers. And I think what's really interesting about this, well, we had the haulier associations telling us, you must do this. This is the only route out of it. And we're saying, actually, we want to skill up and train up and introduce new British drivers to the sector.
Yes, but that takes months, doesn't it? That's not something that we can do immediately.
That's true. However, you'll be pleased to hear we've got 3 times as many applications now for people to get provisional HGV licenses, which is great. And out the other end, taking their tests and therefore coming onto the roads for the first time, we've got much greater capacity, and we've actually got some spare tests each week at a much higher level than before coronavirus. So we are now finally seeing more domestic HGV drivers coming onto the roads. And I think just with all of this, if you don't mind me saying, I think we've got to be careful not to sort of report ourselves into a crisis when it comes to things like our ports. So I saw stories yesterday running saying Felixstowe, which is our biggest container port, it's all going to be terrible for Christmas. Actually, when I speak to Felixstowe, they don't feature in the world's busiest in terms of congestion ports.
There's 50,000 containers on the dock. There's an 8 or 9 day backlog.
But containers move out. But this is what people don't understand. Containers move out in and out every day. They have the lowest number of containers congestion since July. Right. They have 1 ship out at sea waiting to dock typically at any one time. Los Angeles, for example, has 60 ships.
But look at the size of Los Angeles and California. I mean, how does that, that's the point, right?
But the point I'm making is there's a global supply shortage, and this is as the world comes out of coronavirus, and none more so than in the UK, where we've got the fastest growing economy in the G7. My point is, though, that a single ship was diverted by a company called Maersk, who are the largest cargo shipping liner, and we saw it all over the news. Ships are diverted all the time. Many more ships are being diverted through European ports.
I appreciate it. And we do have to not encourage panic, because that then creates a problem. You're absolutely right. Now, already this morning, you have said that Christmas is safe. I'm worried that's made you a hostage to fortune. What do you know that Amazon doesn't know? Who, we've seen leaked documents where they've said we do need people to buy earlier because there are going to be issues. What do you know that other retailers don't know? What do you know that those who get their goods from China, and, for instance, we was hearing this morning that bicycles are still in short supply from way back to last summer, 2020. Where are you getting your confidence from? Because it would be great and would stop panic buying if you could share it.
Well, first of all, let me be clear about what I am and not saying. But fortunately, this year, we'll all be able to get together for Christmas. This time last year on your programme, we were talking about whether as families and friends we'd even be able to get together. We know we'll be able to do that. Yes, there are international supply issues. There's an entire global issue, as you know, with ships going around the world, particularly from Asia, where coronavirus, typhoons and other things have caused quite a restriction. So that is all absolutely true. And so, we do have to recognise we live in that global world. The point I'm really trying to make is that our ports and our roads have managed throughout coronavirus under unbelievably restrictive times where, people were off work, where we weren't able to even have ships leave ports to come here. Much of that has passed. The problems we have now...
It depends what you define Christmas as, to say whether it's safe. If you are a parent, Father Christmas gets lots of presents, but if you're a parent or a grandparent that wants to buy a kid a present, the bulk of those are made in China. So you've identified there are issues in China. You can't guarantee we'll be able to get certain toys. So for some people, Christmas isn't safe.
Yes, I mean, look, I think if put it this way, we'll all be able to be together. We'll be able to buy things. There'll be food on the table. I can't guarantee that every line of every product will be available. We are in an international, supply restrictive period coming out of coronavirus, and say no more so than this country, which is the fastest growing of all the major economies. So we've got, there's a lot of demand there. But I don't think we want to sort of talk ourselves into a crisis either about it. Goods and food will be available. Maybe the one or two lines that you normally want to get aren't. But I think it's at that level rather than thinking Christmas will have to be cancelled and upsetting children everywhere across the country. We're certainly not in that position. And our supply lines, I spoke to Felixstowe Port last night. It's the biggest cargo port in the country. Yeah. And they say, of course, things are very busy, but things are flowing as well. So goods hopefully will continue to arrive as normal.
Well, let's keep them flowing as well. Grant Shapps, thanks for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.